We've got Labor to hand down its first budget of this term in office in about 3 hours' time or so. It's Jim Chalmers who will be delivering it. We'll hear in about half an hour's time from the Shadow Treasurer Angus Taylor. Let's get the view now of the Greens, though, and the Treasury spokesperson Nick McKim is here in the studio with me. Thank you very much for your time. What's your overall take on this budget, first of all? How would you sum it up?
Well, obviously we'll have to wait and see what happens in a few hours' time. But I think what the government's been pretty clear about and what Jim Chalmers has been pretty clear about is that it'll be effectively a business as usual budget. And I think a lot of Australians will be disappointed with that because people voted for a change of government. They got a change of government. They got a change, but I don't think they're going to get much of a change in the budget this evening. So we're expecting pretty much a business as usual budget with no surprises, and that's going to disappoint a lot of people because we know that it's going to project that wages in real terms are going to go down, unemployment's going to go up, so not a lot of joy for Australians.
It takes a while to turn around anything on wages. Unemployment's at a very, very low point, and yes, there's not a lot new, but we've got this huge thing called inflation. I mean, Labor can't announce any major new spending. It would just add to inflation of cost of living. It's shackled, isn't it, at least for now?
Well, what's driving inflation at the moment in Australia is not wages. That is emphatically, we're not seeing a wage price spiral that we've kind of seen a few times in the last few decades. What's driving inflation is there are some global shocks, conflict, climate change, supply chain issues at a global level, but domestically what is driving inflation is corporate profiteering, and that's very clear. And actually the government does have a lever they could pull to address corporate profiteering, which is to introduce a corporate super profits tax to disincentivise that kind of price gouging we're seeing from big corporations.
I mean, the big impacts of inflation have been petrol prices, for example. We know they flow through the economy onto groceries, for example. Electricity prices, so we're talking about international prices, gas and also coal, they've gone up. That's inarguable. What do you mean? What percent are you putting to corporate profiteering and where exactly?
Well, it's hard to be clear exactly on what percentage of inflation is being driven by corporate profiteering, but there's no doubt that it is playing a role, and there is no doubt that wages are not playing a role. I mean, wages have been going backwards in real terms for some time now, and
that's actually not true. So in real terms, up until the last budget, wages were going up. It's just not by much. They were not going backwards over the past few years.
They've been somewhere around neutral, either going up slightly or going down slightly for quite some time now.
There's only been 2 or 3 quarters over a good decade where they've not been going. I know there hasn't been strong growth.
No strong growth in real terms.
Yeah, strong growth is one thing, but backwards, they just haven't been going backwards over 10 years.
They're going backwards right now. And
they are going backwards
they're projected
now, yes,
to go backwards for the next 2 years, at least, in this budget. And I want to say Treasury and Treasurers have got a pretty abysmal track record in terms of projecting out wages.
That's true as well. They haven't gone up by as much as they thought, but it's just they haven't been going backwards.
What I think we can agree on quite clearly here is that wages have not been driving inflation to any significant degree any time in recent history in Australia. So what we've got is international events, which the government does get effectively a pass on, although I might add they are contributing significantly to climate change, which is driving part of the international supply chain shocks. But domestically, the issue is corporate profiteering, and the government could do something about that, but of course they won't. And the reason they won't, or one of the reasons they won't, is they take massive donations from these very corporations.
One of the Greens' proposals on this is pretty radical, though. I mean,
look, it's a corporate super profits tax. I mean,
what is it? This is the question.
Let's be clear about this. The UK Tories under Boris Johnson introduced this kind of tax. This is a completely normal tax that's been introduced in a range of liberal democracies around the world, including under Boris Johnson's Tory party.
The issue is defining the super profit, though, which is always...
It's actually not that hard. I mean, you apply it to big corporations and you define it as a profit by a margin, and we say about 5% over and above what is a reasonable return on investment for these corporations.
But then reasonable returns are one well and one isn't performing that well. Well,
it's a profits tax. So if you're not making a profit, you don't pay the tax. So again, what we need to do is disincentivise the price gouging that we are seeing. I mean, big corporations are using global supply shocks and global conflicts and climate change as a cover to price gouge, and it needs to stop because it's impacting on the lived experience of too many Australians.
I can hear the bell. Someone can tell me if that's the Senate or the House, because you'll be needed for the Senate.
That's the Senate, I'm so
I
sorry.
think I can hear some action out there. All right. Is it the, you've got confirmation?
That's the Senate. Sorry, Tom.
Well, that's okay.
Thanks for
you'll be devastated here. We didn't get to Lydia Thorpe, so perhaps next time.
Perhaps next time.
All right. I'll just help you with your microphone there. This is the nature of live television when we've got these segments. Nick McKim, thank you. We'll let you get off and go into that particular division.